Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the final installment of my top 10 shop essentials under a certain price point. And I've already done under $10, $25, $50, and $100, and I'll link to that playlist above. And today we're looking at shop items under $250. And I think I'm pushing it to call these essentials. I don't think these are essentials. I think these are more so shop conveniences. So let's roll with that title instead. But these are all items that have helped add a layer of convenience to my workflow and improve the projects that I work on. So I'm going to go through these one by one and let you know how they've contributed to my workflow. And yeah, let's take a look. All right, so first up on the list today is my 12-inch disc sander. So this is a Craftex CX series disc sander from Busy Bee Tools. So that is a Canadian tool company. So as far as I know, this is only available in Canada, although in your country, you'll probably find exact versions of this just from other manufacturers. I think it's essentially a white labeled tool from Taiwan, but really heavy duty 12-inch disc sander. I use it all the time. I did just recently do a video covering this as well as my spindle sander, so I'll link that above. But really happy with this. Weighs 70 pounds, so definitely a bit of a beast, but does a great work at helping to round over corners, to sand some larger flat edges, as well as the outside parts of curves. So a very versatile tool and one that gets far more use than I ever really expected it to get. So 12-inch disc sander is one that makes my list. I paid just over $200 Canadian for this. I think it retails for around $250 Canadian. So I'd hope that in the US, you'd probably find these for between $150 and $180. So anyways, 12-inch disc sander, great tool to pick up. Okay, so next on the list is one that wasn't going to make the list until I changed the titling to be shop conveniences instead of shop essentials. I don't think this is essential for any shop by any means, but it is a massive convenience when it comes to panel glue-ups, and that is my Biscuit joiner. So this is the Porter Cable 557 plate joiner. I was lucky to buy this on a used marketplace locally for around $60 Canadian. So definitely a bit of a steal with regards to that. I think that this is a little closer to, I think around $300 Canadian and like 220 US or so. So not a cheap tool, not as expensive as the Domino from Festool, of course. And what this does is it has a spinning blade here that you basically plunge into your workpiece, and then you put these little piece of wood, which are called biscuits, in there, and you put glue on it and it will slightly expand. It will help bring some stability to the joint, but primarily it's used for alignment, and that's essentially what I use it for. So wood glue is extremely strong, and I think that that's something that's often forgotten in woodworking, but these really help with alignment. You're able to reference the tops or the bottoms of a workpiece and get perfect alignment by using the plates on here. So yeah, for me, the Biscuit joiner is one of my top shop conveniences when it comes to any panel glue up. Moving on, we have the first of two routers that make the list, and that is my Bosch 1617 EVS PK. I haven't done a formal review of this router yet, although it has been covered extensively in a few other videos that I'll kind of casually link above during my coverage of this one. This is a fantastic router. So this is a 2.25 horsepower router that comes with a fixed base as well as a plunge base. Just super easy to use, very easy to adjust. Probably one of the most exciting tools that I've acquired. And for me, 2021, the year of the router in quotes, I've learned a lot about routers just over the last month, and I've shared a lot of that here on YouTube. So again, I'll link to some of those videos above. But this router is fantastic. So this kit that comes with these two, and it comes with a nice hard case as well, is around $220 Canadian, and I think around $220 US, and around $320 Canadian, although they can be found on significant sales from time to time, especially here in Canada. And yeah, just a great router, really good quality bases, and can't say enough good things about this. So while we're on the topic of routers, let's take a look at another router. And this is one where I have published a more formal review of this. And again, I'll link that above. But this is the DCW 600 from DeWalt. This is a cordless 20-volt trim router. And as much as I was just loving on the Bosch, they both have some very different use cases. And for me, this is probably more used. It's easy to whip out, put a battery on it. Dust collection is poor. I am looking at getting a little bit of an attachment here from Oneida to help with some dust collection, but really easy router to use. It's a 1/4 inch collet, so you are limited to 1/4 inch bits, of course, but great for trim routing, great for some interior work. And if you can justify it, the plunge base for this, again, which I've covered, is phenomenal. This brings so much versatility to this little router. I would highly recommend. I think the router itself is around $200, like 180 US, $200, 220 Canadian, and I think that the plunge base is around $100 Canadian or $70 US. Really easy to use, very similar to the Bosch in a lot of ways. Good depth stop, just really handy add-on to have. So if you are getting this trim router and you're looking for some more traditional plunge needs, then definitely check out the plunge base. Okay, so next up on the list, we have the Bosch Flexiclick drill system. And this is a 12-volt drill system that uses Bosch's 12-volt battery pack. Very compact tool. I like using 12-volt tools when it comes to a lot of cabinetry work versus the 20-volt DeWalt that I do have for general purpose. It comes with a variety of chucks that can be attached, and my favorite of them is, and these can also be used in combination, so there's a nice right angle adapter that allows you to then attach any of these chucks, but is the offset. So this allows you to butt up basically right against the wood and get within about a 1/2 inch of that piece of wood. So you can do drill and driving with this. I primarily use it for driving purposes, but the Bosch Flexiclick, it's not that expensive. I think it's around $130, $140 US and $180 Canadian. Easily one of the best additions that I have made in the shop. And anytime that 12 volts is enough for me, I will essentially grab this instead of my DeWalt 20 volts. So just nice, compact, well balanced, really nice tool to have. Okay, so next up is one that I originally didn't want to put on the list, but honestly, as far as the type of woodworking that I do, the pocket hole jig is a massive convenience. So if you're doing more informal type or shop or laundry room or built-in cabinetry, pocket holes go a long way to bring strength, stability, speed to your work. And here we have 2 pocket hole jigs. We have the K5, which I have the master system, and I think that this this has been discontinued in recent months, but I think it did retail for around like $160, $180 US, and I think I paid around $200 Canadian for the master system. Then here we have the brand new Kreg 720 Pro. So this is the 720 right here, but I do have the Pro, which has different additions and accessories that go with it. For me, I have been putting these through a bit of a comparison recently, and I have done a video where I do a more formal comparison of these 2 jigs. But now that I've been using the 720 Pro more and more over the last few weeks on some larger panels, I would say the 720 Pro is the jig for me, and it's almost solely because of the ease of use with the clamp and being able to rotate 90 degrees for large sheet goods. So if you're working on an 8-foot piece, rather than pulling out a small pocket hole jig that you clamp onto the workpiece, because you can't do it with the K5, the 720 Pro just does it out of the box. I am trying to find a way. In Canada, it's very hard to do giveaways, so I am looking to either sell or give away my K5, but in the meantime, the 720 Pro, definitely the jig for me. I think it retails for around $200 for the 720 Pro. And if you are in the market for a pocket hole jig, consider the 720 Pro or 720 or even 520, which is also an interesting one to me that I would like to try at some point. But also look at the other ones. Look at Armor, and there are a few other ones that Woodworking Garage, and I'll put a link above to his channel, but Richard over at Woodworking Garage has done a lot of testing of pocket hole jigs, and definitely think of him as more of an expert than I am. For me, the 720 Pro, because I have it and because I've been using it and because I generally like it, I am going to keep. But go look at Richard's channel because he has a lot of great examples of other pocket hole jigs that are not as well known as Kreg. All right, so now we're getting a little mobile, and one of the other tools that I have that has been a massive convenience for me is my Bosch RA1181, so RA1181 router table. And I recently mounted this into my rigid table saw. So just for you to see, it's now built into the extension wing of my table saw, which has been a huge space saver. This router table on its own with its legs does work really, really well. So you don't have to do something like this, but if you do have a rigid table saw or a table saw with extension wings that could fit this, it is a massive space saver and something that I'm super happy that I did. It's super easy to mount almost any router into the bottom of this, so lots of different points. It does come with a ton of mounting hardware. Really happy with this router table. It retails for around $230 US, closer to $300 Canadian, although I think I paid around $170 Canadian, so it must have just been a massive sale a little while ago. But awesome tool, one for you to take a look at. And next up is my Porter Cable Pancake compressor. So I actually just washed this yesterday, so cleaned it up after my daughter kept telling me my tools were dirty. But I love this compressor. It's very compact, very easy to use. It came with a brad nailer that I use all the time. Great for cabinetry, great for other woodworking. It's easy to cover those nails and just also keeping the shop clean. And I actually have this attached to a hose reel, so I can, it's got like a blower nozzle on it right now, but I can also swap it over to fill the tires on cars or on toys. Just a really nice compressor. And this retails for around $220 US on regular price, $280 to $300 Canadian. Although it does go on sale quite often, and they're always different bundle kits. So whether it's with a brad nailer or stapler or other tool, kind of all over the place with what those packages look like. But the Porter Cable 150 PSI 6-gallon pancake compressor is a great tool to have. So now we're gonna lean over the workbench and just take a look at my 1 horsepower dust collector. It's filthy right now. It is gonna be going through a bit of a cleanup. I'm gonna get a new filter bag for the top. Thanks to Richard at Woodworking Garage for the recommendation on that. But this is the Craftex CT053. So it is the more basic 1 horsepower dust collector that we can get here in Canada. And I think it would compare to what you could probably get at Harbor Freight in the 1 horsepower range, but really handy to have. It has the 4-inch hose or 4-inch port with 4-inch hose. It's almost always hooked up to my table saw, and I do swap it over to my planer when I'm using that. And then I use the shop vac and dust extractor on the majority of my other tools, but really good thing to have. I think that this is probably more of a shop essential than a convenience, but a nice dust collector. Shouldn't cost you too much, probably $150 to $200 US and probably $250 Canadian for a dust collector like this. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about shop lighting. And I'm not a shop lighting expert by any means, but for me, if you are looking to do an improvement to your shop, I highly recommend getting some really good LED or fluorescent lights. LED, if you can, they draw a lot less power, which can give you more power for your tools. I bought these 4 units, just to step back and give you a better overview. I bought these 4 units probably 3 or 4 years ago, and they've held up really well. I think that they were just a Costco special, just easy to hang. They were around $50 each at the time, although I think that they're probably a lot cheaper now that LEDs are a lot more common. But for my 12 by 20 shop, these 4 lights more than sufficiently illuminate my shop. I really have no need for any more. Just to quickly show you how they work. They're not hooked up to a switch or anything yet. I would like to do that eventually, but just easy to come out, pull these 4 on. So I think lighting is often underthought of when it comes to conveniences and essentials in the shop. So good lighting is something that's really important to me. All right, so these have been 10 items that have added a layer of convenience in my shop. Your mileage may vary compared to these. Let me know in the comments below what your most convenient items are, especially kind of in that $100 to $250 range. A couple tools that didn't make the list. So my Porter cable dovetail jig did not make the list. I have not used it enough to really realize how useful or potentially not useful it is. As well as I don't have good hand planes. So my hand tools, my chisels, which I did cover in the last video, are awesome and I do love those, but I don't have a good block plane or jack plane or handsaw or anything like that that would fit in this range. If I did have something like the nice Veritas from Lee Valley block plane, then I'm sure that would make my list of under $250, but I don't have any of those tools. Same with like my drill press, not worthy of making the cutoff here. When it comes to circular saws and that sort of thing, I have a track saw, which is more expensive than this, so I don't have a circular saw making the list, although I do think that that would be a great addition to any shop, just a general circular saw. And anything else, I think that really, once I focus on convenience, these tools were very easy to pick. So I know I've doubled up on routers, but routers have absolutely been amazing the last few months that I've been using them, as well as a few other things that just make joinery easier and improve the quality of my work. So thanks for watching this series. Again, leave a comment below, like this video if you do, subscribe for more videos in the future, and thanks for watching, everyone.